Hi, Graham McMahon. This is still on the skills of spur climbing, and the building block this time is sharpening the spurs. So I've got a rig set up on my ute so I can do it on the job if needed. I've got a vice in there. I carry the pieces of wood for it, and we've got our victim to sharpen here. It needs it, and we'll have a closer look at that in a minute. So the very shiny tip at the end there shows that it is just starting to blunt off and could do with a sharpen. So that's cause to bring it in to be sharpened. We use a vise to hold the spur in place so we can sharpen the gaff. We can either set it up in the vise that way and draw the file towards us, or we can set it up that way and push the file away from us. I prefer to do it this way, and I take off the top pad so it doesn't foul with the workbench. So the parts of the gaff are important terminology. This is the beehive, the heel, underside, the cutting edges, and the tip or profile. And what we need to do is make sure that the beehive is not affected or touched while we sharpen. It's only ever this underside. The three things supplied by Buckingham Spurs for sharpening theirs is a file, a gauge, and there are different sorts of gauges, and a stone to take out the file marks. So when we sharpen this, we need to maintain the shape demonstrated on the gauge. So as we file it away, we try and maintain that shape. This gauge is for thickness, and you check the thickness of the shank and the stirrup to make sure that this gauge doesn't enter it. If it starts entering it, then it means that the edges are too thin. If it goes all the way in, you're way past your discard. So to put the sharpening start in position, we take that off. One thing we always check is that these screws are tight, and this should be a daily occurrence. Then I'll attach the spur in my wooden blocks, ready to go like that. So there's three different ways to attach the actual gaff. One is to have a locating lug and a screw. The others have a locating lug and a pin. And the other just has two screws. In this case, it's also got a locating lug in the middle. So when we're checking the serviceability of our gaffs, we check that all these are tight as part of your daily checks. So when we sharpen the gaff, we sharpen the underside only and maintaining that profile. We do not touch the beehive. Do not ever go across the gaff. You only ever sharpen longitudinally from the heel out the tip and roll it. In this case, the profile is what we're trying to maintain. So take the time, and as you're doing it, you watch to see that you are taking metal off both sides. If you only got one side, you need to true your file up. And periodically we need to check that we're maintaining the profile and we're getting close to what we need. So let's have a look. So you can see the tip is just touching down here, and there's a gap back into the profile. So I need to take more meat off there while still maintaining that profile. So you can see now that the tip of the gaff follows the profile that Buckingham want done for this. So that's a good result. So these are file score marks. They need to be taken out so it's nice and polished. And in addition, where we've been pushing the file over the top, we wind up with a burr, both on the tip and on the outside edge. We do not take meat off the beehive, but we don't mind taking the burr off. So we'll stone these out. So we'll just chase these burrs off, make sure there's no burr left. A little bit on the tip. And there we've got a nice sharp gaff. This is the test we do to see if the gaffs are correctly sharpened. We hold the spur parallel to the piece of timber, and without any weight pushing down, we just simply force it forward on a piece of pine or cedar, and it should dig in. So that digs in and that passes the test. That means when we're putting the spurs in, they'll want to come in, and that is the importance of the shape of that tip. With the spur in about 30 to 45 degrees, put a little bit of weight on it, put the weight of your foot on it, and then lift it up to vertical. And the gaff should dig in when your weight comes on it. So that's the pole test. I've got a lump of timber standing up on its end, but that shows us that it cuts and digs in the way it's meant to. This test is to be done on softwood. Our Australian hardwoods really require our tips to be sharp at all times. As well as getting the tip profile correct and using that part of the gauge, we also need to use this part of the gauge here to make sure we have the correct taper on the cutting edges. So we fit them over the outside of the cutting edges and make sure the tip falls into this zone here between the bottom point of the bulge and the tip. If the tip touches that, that means it's too narrow. If it sits too far down, that means it's too fat. So there's an optimal distance across the surface there. So here's another set of Buckinghams that have been sharpened not so long ago. And when I fit that gauge up, you can see the tip of it is just at the bottom of the acceptable range. You can see the Klein gaff here. It has an entirely different profile to the Buckingham. It may have a taper, which doesn't fit this gauge, but it has a bevel or a chamfer on there, not a shape like the Buckingham. Must make sure you get the correct gauge for the correct gaff. So that completes the building blocks for gaff sharpening. Don't forget to do your push test to ensure that the profile is operational. That's the way you test that this is correct.